Yo, I'm Tripolar Bear, and this is Ruetoo's Fire Trap Saboteur, who got the idea from Ventrua, who heard about the Kongming Saboteur setup in an Octavian video. I'm gonna go over why I'll choose Fire Trap over Seismic for my starter, and why we're using the Kongming's shield in this league start. But let's go over why Fire Trap is a good choice for you. We're going to use Fire Trap because it's really easy to use and set up on bosses, and can help players who will be unfamiliar with Uber fights complete them. Our single target and clear abilities are the exact same, making us a one button build for league start, and once set up there will only be one other button to press outside of our curse on the boss. Fire Trap has a huge area of coverage and deals millions of damage over 3+ seconds, making this an insane build for early expedition farming, and makes this easy to complete all your early bosses and even the new Uber bosses alongside Deli Orb and mirror farming as well. The DPS you see in the POB is going to be super real DPS, which is another reason why I chose this build over others. This DPS is going to be 100% uptime, not requiring you to constantly attack or requiring you to put down totems, giving up DPS that you could otherwise have, or aiming at bosses, missing, etc. There's a huge circle on the ground, and that circle does damage for 3 seconds. It's extremely easy to have 100% uptime on this build, which means you don't have to give up any damage to dodge mechanics or pay attention to any boss patterns or moves during the actual fights. So, I know what you're asking, is this better than Seismic Trap? And the answer is yes, it can be better than Seismic Trap in a few areas that I think are important enough. Fire Trap is much better than Seismic for expedition and delirium farming. It has no cooldown, it's non-hit based, it's non-crit, and this makes it able to ignore every remnant mod except immune to fire. And it clears them away very quickly and easily by completely ignoring the block mechanic and those annoying shield guys during expedition. This build is also better for farming delirium content because Exsanguinate is really bad in 60+ deli, which means you need to rely completely on Seismic's cooldown based trap. Fire Trap has no cooldown, and it leaves a huge area of damage and has Ignite Proliferation, which takes care of beyond spawns and deli spawns right away as soon as they come up. And this makes this very viable for delirium mirror farming, where you need to have a fast-paced build, constantly killing everything and constantly moving towards the end of the map. Not having to wait for cooldowns is very, very helpful in that regard. This makes Fire Trap much better for farming up a ton of money with logbook farming in maps or in the logbooks themselves. And I have a guide on both of those aspects already, so go check out those if you're interested in making tons of money on League Start. Fire Trap does less damage than Seismic, and this is the one weakness of it. It's much easier to play on bosses though, so that can kind of offset the damage loss and the fact that it has 100% uptime, especially on mobile bosses or invitations with multiple encounters, where your Seismic might only be able to hit one of the 3 to 4 bosses out. Your Fire Trap will be able to be cast across the whole arena, completely filling it with damage. Seismic is an overall better bosser if you already know all the fights and how to play Seismic properly, but where Fire Trap takes the edge is fights you'll be uncomfortable in. Because of no cooldown on this trap, you can throw them all the time, constantly on the ground and across the whole arena, and have huge areas of dot damage on the ground throughout the whole fight. This, combined with the fact that we're going to be using Kongming's shield to reduce spell damage we take, in combination with Saboteur's Blind, gives us spell suppression levels of reduction without the need to deal with buying or rolling spell suppression gear. This saves us points for more life on the tree and lets us sell any suppression gear to accelerate our own build's progress. You can, if you want, still roll suppression gear and become goddamn near immune to spell damage, but this is a little bit spurgy for softcore, so I don't recommend it, neither does Rue in his POB. Ruetoo's POB has a full leveling skill tree, gearing, and gems section, with 3 tiers of gearing and skill usage for the build. The only thing I contributed to the build is this video. The gameplay you see and the gear crafting section in the notes, so make sure you go thank Ruetoo and tell him he looks good with his camera back. We're going to talk about two things next, and those are how to level the build and at what gear level you can farm what content. We are going to level this build as Stormblast Mine, Orb of Storms until 29, where we're going to swap to Armageddon Brand and Fire Trap. If you haven't played Stormblast Mine or Orb of Storms before, they're very easy to do. You just put down the Orb of Storms and cast Stormblast Mine inside of it, which causes the Orb of Storm to arc lightning out. Then you just press Detonate Mine one time, and the sequence of Stormblast Mines will explode. Armageddon Brand is easier to play, with you simply casting it on a pack and moving onwards, using Fire Trap only on tanky magic or rare monsters. And after Cruel Lab, you can swap to using only Fire Trap with Ignite Prolif if you don't want to use 2 buttons anymore. Now it's just smooth sailing all the way to red maps. Just make sure to start leveling your Inspiration, Grace, Defiance Banner, Efficacy, and Malevolence before you get to maps so that you can use them as soon as possible. How you play the build in early maps is just right-click for clearing, shield charging and flame dashing between packs. Make sure you have Ignite Prolif in your links, as this helps with clear. Once you get to the boss, you just press your Malevolence and use your Life Flask, then Wave of Conviction to apply exposure and curse, and keep right clicking. Make sure you click ahead of the boss if it's moving so they stay in the fire trap as long as possible. It's as easy as it sounds. It really is a pretty relaxing build to play so long as you follow the POB. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next with the gearing section. Make sure when you're following the POB that you swap the gear sets, the skill gems, and the tree all at the same time, because they are tailor-made for each other. They each need to be synced up, so make sure you do that. As well as checking the notes section for any problems you might have, and the notes section for crafting the gear of this build. 85 gearing should be the goal gear to have before red maps, with the most important part being the Gravitious Unveil you'll need for the body armor craft, and the Elrion ring for the Unveiled minus mana craft, which lets you drop an Enduring Mana Flask. This gear is good enough for expedition farming in maps and for logbooks, with a few rips on bosses you'll be unfamiliar with. For the level 95 gearing, you'll be much beefier with extra aura and determination effect. You'll be able to handle logbooks easily and can complete the Feared and all the bosses required, Maven witnessed, in the new Uber fights. If they are as difficult to fight as the Feared is, then you'll be able to complete them once you try and fail a few times, learning the moves and what you need to flame dash out of. For the end game gearing, you'll be able to complete Juiced Delirium and Delirium Mirror farming, and should be easily able to down all the new Uber bosses. The gearing at this level is strictly just for more damage, which means you'll be able to kill the new Uber bosses with less skill, but this gear should not be required for them. This is most likely the League starter I'll be playing, as it's a relaxing one-button build to clear all the content 3.18 has to offer. I have tested this build out, doing an SSF run all the way up and through red maps, as well as transferring that to Standard, Trade League, and testing out all the different gear sets in Rue's POB. I've cleared all of the content, tested all the gear sets, and I am very happy with this build. And if you like this build guide and you're happy with this POB as well, make sure you, number 1, subscribe to see more Rue builds, and number 2, to thank Rue for testing this out and creating this POB. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in my live stream. See you there.